Okay, so this video we're looking at solving quadratics, I suppose algebraically, right? And often what people do is they just learn the process of solving quadratics, and that's fine, but there's not really a lot of understanding of what is going on behind the scenes. So I just want to quickly go through what solving a quadratic actually means, just quickly now, as well as going into the questions involving it. So hopefully we're pretty familiar with quadratics. We talk about it a lot in class, but we know a quadratic is something that has a square term, like we can see up here. That's really important. Okay, and it could just be x squared is a quadratic, but here we've got three parts. We've got x squared plus 5x plus 6, and if we put it equal to y, that then produces a graph that looks something like this here. Okay, so important to know that a quadratic, it takes a U shape, okay, and that's important, which we hopefully already know from lessons and on the videos. Right, solving, which is our keyword for today, solving a quadratic means finding the values where the curve cuts the x-axis. So where does this curve here, this red curve, cut through this x-axis down here? Okay, well, we can see if I put it on screen, we're looking at these 2 points here. This is what solving means. We're trying to find the points where your curve, the red curve, cuts the x-axis. Okay, and we can see graphically, okay, because I've drawn the graph already on here, right, these two values are x equals -3. So literally your x-axis is here, that point in there is -3, and this point here is x equals to -2. So we say that the solutions of this quadratic are x is -3, this one here, and x is -2, this one here. That is what solving a quadratic actually means. Okay? -3, -2, there we go. Right, and there are many ways to solve a quadratic that you will see through your mathematical careers at GCSE, right? And one of them, which we can see right here, is graphically. So you get given a graph, or maybe you've got to draw the graph, but usually they give you the graph, and you can see visually, right, these solutions here are -3 and -2. Today, we're looking at factorising to solve a quadratic, which is what we're doing today. And then you've also got something called the quadratic formula, which is a bit higher grade. I've got another video on that. And then completing the square, grade 9. I've also got a video on that. But today, right, we're looking at factorising in this video. Okay, so let's keep the same quadratic up here. Right, to solve this quadratic here by factorising, what we're doing today, we have to let this y value, so this thing here, this y, equal to 0. Okay, and the reason is, right, when we've got this quadratic here, when y is equal to 0, well, that is this blue line here. It looks a bit strange, but remember, like, if you have y equals to 2, that would be a line going through the y-axis at 2. Okay, but when it's equal to 0, that's when it lies on the x-axis, and we can get these 2 points that we want here. So just know that, right? When we factorise by solving, when we solve by factorising, we let y equal to 0. Okay, and this is because, right, we get our 2 solutions. Anyway, right, let's just get into the process now, because I've been rambling on for a lot of time, but hopefully that gives you a bit of context. So, example 1, it says solve this here. So x squared plus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. And that's really important, right? I've replaced y with 0, okay, because that's how I solve a quadratic. And right, if we've watched my videos on factorising in my grade 5 playlist or in class, we know this, right? This is a quadratic that we can factorise, right? It is numbers that multiply to make your last number, so times to make your last number 6, and that add to make your middle number, which is this +5 here. So times to make, add to make, +5. So when you get to this stage here, really important we get these 2 numbers right, otherwise it all goes a bit wrong. So think of 2 numbers. Let's go for 3 and 2, and let's double check it. Is 3 times 2 6? Yes, it is. And is 3 add 2 5? Yes, it is. So those are your 2 numbers. Okay, so now we put this into brackets by factorising it. So we go and say you've got your 2 brackets here and here. And we say, well, we've got x always at the start of both brackets, x, and it's going to be +3 and +2. And it could be in either order. So it could be x plus 2, x plus 3, or I'm going to write it as x plus 3 and x plus 2. Okay, so I factorised it. So this bit here is the same thing as this here. They mean exactly the same thing, just I factorised it. I put it into brackets. Right, but it's got to be equal to 0. So equal to 0, which is there. So I factorised it just as normal, which hopefully we're okay with. Right, to solve this now, I've basically got 2 equations. I've got x plus 3 being equal to 0, and I've got x plus 2 being equal to 0. So let's go and write these out here. So the first one, I've got x plus 3 being equal to 0, or I've got x plus 2 being equal to 0. So now these are just one-step equations that we can solve. Okay, so what add 3 is equal to 0? It's going to be minus 3, but just to show you all of the working, right, to make it hopefully really, really clear, right, I've got to take away 3 on both sides, so take away 3 and take away 3, and then these are going to cancel, so we get x is equal to, well, 0 minus 3 is just minus 3, okay? That is this first solution here, minus 3, or my second solution, the same idea, I take away 2 from both sides, take away 2, and then these two here are going to cancel, right, so I then get x is equal to 0 take away 2, which is minus 2. Okay, so I've solved it, right, first of all by factorising it, and then I solve my equations, so I've got either x is equal to minus 3, let's make that a little bit neater, so minus 3, which we can see is correct, or x is equal to minus 2. Okay, and these, I say, are my two solutions. Right, and what this is really saying is if I put any of these values into my quadratic up here, right, so let's go and use x equals to minus 3, it will equal to 0. Let's check it. So we've got x squared, well, x is minus 3, so minus 3 squared, plus 5 times minus 3, plus 6, and hopefully that is equal to 0. It will be, let's just show you. So minus 3 squared is plus 9. 5 by minus 3 is minus 15. Then we're adding on 6. So 9 minus 15, add 6. Well, 9 add 6 is 15. Minus 15 indeed is equal to 0. Right, so we're literally saying what values of x make this equal to 0. Well, either x is minus 3 or x is minus 2 will make this part here equal to 0. Okay, so that's the process. We factorise, we then put it equal to 0, and then we solve. So let's look at 2 more examples, and then you can try 8 questions here yourself, and I'll put the answers up after that. So example 2, similar kind of quadratic. We've got 3 parts to it. It says solve and sketch the graph. Don't worry about sketching it. We went through that in class, but we're just going to look at solving the quadratic. Okay, and the same with this one. We're just looking at solving the quadratic for this video. So solve this, okay? Again, right, numbers that multiply to make your last number, which is negative 6, and you must include that negative and that add to equal minus x, which really means minus 1x. Okay, so add to make minus 1. Okay, if this bit here, you always go, this bit confuses me, and then the numbers, it doesn't matter, right? Just pick some numbers and go from there. So, right, 3 and 2 is going to be a good bet, isn't it? Because 3 times 2 is 6. I want minus 6, but it's kind of on the right lines. Well, if I make that 3 negative, well, minus 3 times 2 is minus 6, which is good. Okay, and minus 3 add 2 is minus 1. Right, so these are my 2 numbers, which is really important. So you've got to get this bit right. If that goes wrong, everything goes wrong. So take some time there. If you need to write it out and say, right, is minus 3 times 2 minus 6? Yeah, it is. Good. And is minus 3 add 2 minus 1? Yes, it is. Good. That's fine. Okay, write it all out. Make sure we are getting that bit correct. That's really important. Okay, so to solve this, I've got to put it into brackets first of all. So let's go and do that. So 2 brackets with a quadratic and equal to 0. And my 2 values are going to be x. Let's make this a little bit bigger, sorry, so we can see clearly what's going on. So we've got big bracket, 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 equal to 0. So either I've got x minus 3 or x plus 2. And again, that could have been x plus 2, that could have been x minus 3. In either order, it doesn't matter. Okay, well, I factorised it, but now to solve it, I'm going to have my two equations, either x minus 3 is equal to 0, this first one, okay, or the second one is going to be, so, or x plus 2 is equal to 0. I go and solve these, right? I go and add 3 to both sides, okay, and then these cancel here. So x is going to be equal to, well, 0 plus 3, which is going to be 3. Basically, right, when you get to this stage here, you just change the sign. If it's just x and a number, you just flip the sign. Okay, so that's the way it works. This is just showing you what is going on behind the scenes, which is nice. Or my second solution is going to be x plus 2 equals to 0. I can go and take away 2 from both sides, and then cancel these out. So I've got x is equal to 0, take away 2, so x is equal to minus 2. Okay, and these are my 2 solutions. x is equal to 3, x is minus 2. So I've solved this quadratic here. Okay, I'm not going to go and sketch it because that's kind of like a bit higher grade really for this video. Anyway, so example 3, right, this quadratic here is a quadratic in a different form. Right, this is in the form, we've still got to factorize it, and maybe you recognize what it's going to be, but this here is a quadratic in the difference of two squares form. What that really means is, right, literally, this is in the form a squared, let's write it in a different color so we can see what's going on there. Right, this is in the form a squared minus b squared, which we had a video on this back in the playlist, but it's called the difference of two squares. Literally, right, you've got two square numbers, and difference means you're taking away, which is what we've got going on here. And when you factorize in difference of two squares form, it's going to be two brackets, always two brackets with a quadratic, and it is you root the first number and you plus the root of the second number, so a plus b, and then you root the first number and you take away the root of the second number. So here, right, we've got x squared, a square number, and we've got 16, which is 4 squared, so it's going to go into two brackets that look like this. It's going to be x plus 4. Your second bracket is going to be x minus 4. Okay, so it's one of those quadratics, and it is equal to 0. Okay, so then I factorised it. I've got to go and solve it again. So either it's going to be x plus 4 equals to 0, and this time I'm not going to write that all out. I'm just going to go straight to the crunch. Well, I can change the sign and just say x is equal to minus 4, or for the second one, x is equal to plus 4. So x is equal to 4. Okay, and these here are my solutions to the quadratic. Okay, so what you can do now is, I'm not going to go through these here. I've got the answers on the next slide. You can pause the video, give those a go. They get trickier as they go on, I would say. But those two examples that we've been through will cover you for all of them. Okay, this one here is a bit trickier, but it's using the same idea as question 5 and 6. It's the difference of two squares. Okay, the extension, I'm not going to put on the slide, so ignore that. So pause the video, give those a go. I will reveal the answers in 3, 2, 1. There we go. They are your answers. Okay, so mark your work. Any issues, you can always email me, but hopefully that was useful. Thank you.